All right. Well, welcome everyone. Happy to have you. Um, so today we're going to go over how to master your backups, essential best practices for everyone. Um, so just to give you a little idea of who we are, my name is Nick DeStefano. I am the product marketing manager here for backup and ticketing at Ninja One. And we also have Dan, the product manager for backup as well. Um, So essentially, what we're going to do here today is I'll run you through a little bit of the agenda. We'll go over some things, and then Dan's going to kind of drive us through some of these best practices as well. So, as mentioned on the first slide, we're here to talk about how to master your backups, the essential best practices for everyone. So, to give you a little bit of an idea of our agenda for the day, we'll briefly talk about kind of, why we're discussing some of these best practices. I'll have Dan kind of run us through 3 to 4 real world scenarios or so. He'll show off how to get some of these things set up within our platform. And finally, we really want to hear from everyone kind of on this call. So want to hear from you about all things backup, any best practices you've implemented yourself, and to really take this time to fire off some questions to our product manager of backup, Dan. So there is going to be a Q&A function within this webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to answer within the Q&A section. We're going to prioritize some of those questions as well. And then if we can't get to all of your questions, we also have an email address that I'll put on the slide at the end, and Christine will be able to send in the chat as well, that you can send questions kind of directly to myself and Dan. So we'll get started here. All right. So just briefly today, why did we choose this topic? Why are we talking about this topic? So the majority of, you on this call may have either already set up your backups, you have experience with backups in the past, or you're just kind of looking to learn more from us. So we wanted to dive in a bit of what happens after you already have your backup working or set up, right? So within this call or within this webinar, we want to accomplish a few things. One is just discussing best practices around continuous backup hygiene to ensure, everyone's, you all are already on top of things or always on top of things, right? We want to make sure you're protecting your data to the best of your ability. We want to make sure we're covering all of your bases and applying these practices to your individual businesses, your individual departments, etc. And at a minimum, if you already know all these topics, hopefully this is just a reminder for you to jump back in and check on some of your existing backup settings, maybe make some tweaks and go from there. So we'll jump right into scenario 1 here. And basically, at a baseline, we're going to go over backup monitoring, restoration testing, and alert configuration. So as of now, I'm going to hand this off to Dan. So feel free to run us through.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. It's great to see everyone here today. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Dan, and I'm the product manager. So I've been with Ninja here for just a little under a year. And before that, I have about 10 years of experience in MSP world. So I was responsible for a team that was managing all things backup related and all things RMM and internal tools. So I'm really excited to talk about this one first, because I think this is actually part of the more overlooked piece of kind of backup infrastructure. You got to make sure the first thing that you are scheduling time to be checking your backups. Even if you set up what you consider great alerting and monitoring, it's really important that you continue to adapt that IT principle of trust but verify. So one of the first things I want to make a recommendation for is come up with a schedule of how often you're going to check your backups. It could be just as simple as going and looking at your dashboards. You could choose to want to roll through every organization and just make sure you don't see a failure message next to any item. You might get a emailed report daily. For myself, we had some API work and we were getting daily reports. We made sure that we went over that report as a team every day, first thing in the morning. What backups have failed? What offsites failed? Are there any, we had appliances at my MSP. Are there any backup appliances that are offline? It's important to set a schedule to do this, but it's really important to follow through with it. Backup can be one of those topics that is out of sight, out of mind, and it can be very easy to get complacent. So I really encourage everyone to schedule time to look at it, but stick with it. The moment you get complacent, you'll kick yourself one day when you go, shoot, I think I saw that alert yesterday, but it usually resolves itself. And oh, this time it didn't. So that's one of the most important things to start doing. Now, in terms of testing your restores, again, same thing. Keep a regular schedule and stick to it. Anyone that could be responsible for doing a restore in a crisis situation, maybe for its critical servers or a critical workstation, make sure that you're comfortable doing it. The worst time to learn about how to restore is in the middle of a disaster scenario that you're undertaking. And let's be clear, restore scenarios are stressful even when you know what you're doing. Usually you've got the client that's upset or they're needing results yesterday, even though it just happened. So I want to encourage everyone that could have a need to do the restore to actually test and practice doing the restore. And make sure you have a written procedure for how you'll act in this situation. If you write it down, you write yourself a playbook, and make sure that even if you're the guy that is normally responsible for backups, you've already set yourself up or other people up for success if maybe you are not available. But look, a backup is only as good as the last time you made sure that it worked. So come up with different levels of verification. Some people will just quickly open a restore and see like, yes, I can get to those files and restore them individually. Some people do quarterly restore tests, right? They'll go take 1 or 2 machines a quarter and try and, fully recover the server from scratch. And this is a great opportunity to make it become a part of your service standard that you're offering to the rest of your departments or to the clients that you may support if you're an MSP. There's a great opportunity for your sales and marketing crew to make sure and say, hey, we regularly test our backups and we regularly test our restores. My MSP offered sort of an additional fee, like we would literally create the restore playbook for you and we would walk you through a dry run scenario. So there's some opportunities to increase the business value to your customers by doing this, but also it really makes sure that you are prepared. So for the next section, I want to take you through, at least from the Ninja console, about how you should configure your alerts. So I'm going to go ahead and take over and share my screen here. All right. And so, right away, I'm going to use this chance to brag about our new dashboards that we've just released. And you could do a lot of alerting and monitoring directly from our new dashboard. We're going to give you the information right up front about, how many jobs have been successful. Are there any successful with warnings? Are there any that failed? We default by just showing you today, but you can easily, move over to the last 30 days and then even click in here to get that filtered list of failed backups in the last 30 days. One of the things I like to point out, I'm going to show you guys how to set backup alerting just at the basics, right? Failed backups. But it's not just about failed backups. It's about understanding the lack of a success as well. What if someone disabled a backup job? Or what if the machine, and look, things happen. What if it just didn't run? You may not get a failure message and feel complacent by that. One of the things Ninja is looking to do in the near future is provide you ways of getting an alert if a backup job is running for a long period of time. So one of the things you can do today in our new dashboards is adding a filter here to show you when the last success has been. And one of the things I really like to encourage people to do is get a filter going that shows, hey, who hasn't had a successful backup for more than 2 days? Now, this is our sales environment and we don't have any failures right here, but typically what you would be seeing is the organizations that have agents that haven't taken a successful backup in the last 2 days. And this is part of doing that sort of daily check, something that's pretty simple and quick to do, but make sure that you aren't missing anything, that you aren't being complacent, that you're getting the information you need. So this is the one that I always like to make sure that we highlight as something that you should be doing, not even just relying straight on the alerts. Now, from an alerting perspective, and look, Ninja, we know, is a policy-driven platform where you can have inheritance directing from, the root of your policies, like the Windows servers and the Windows workstations. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can put your backup plan at the very root, or you could have it at the very bottom of your inheritance tree. One of the things that I really like to make sure I recommend, though, is I got to find my root ones here. Yep, here we go. Windows Server default. So this is the root, right? Policies will inherit from this. Even if you aren't scheduling a backup to run at your root policy, you should be setting your activities to do alerting here. This makes sure that if your backup what to back up and when policies are way down the line of an inheritance of policy, you're making sure at the root level, though, when a backup job completed with warning. So here you can see we've got a backup job failed. We've already got our alert template set up here to always create a ticket. Go through a couple of these. There's some powerful things that you can do. If the backup failed to install, look, we tout ourselves as the backup is built directly in the RMM, but we've seen if some people have some very restrictive firewalls that sometimes it will fail. And there is some setup that you may have to do here. If you don't have this set, you'll never know about it. And you'll just assume that backups are running. So again, it's not just about alerting, but it's about recognizing and auditing, has everything happened that I expect to happen? We offer a lot of options here, so we can alert if a restore job has failed, if a sync to the cloud has failed. So I really recommend that everyone come in here and make sure that they have, at minimum, some failed backup alerting set in progress. All right, so I think that's going to do it for our demo on the front. So Nick, I'll let you go ahead and take back over here on the slideshow and presentation.
All right.
Cool. So
okay.
Look, in conclusion on this topic here, make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have someone dedicated, that this is part of their responsibilities. And I want to stress, having been in this position, I know how easy it is to unintentionally become complacent. You have a lot of stuff going on, and quite frankly, these are some of the behind the scenes work. It's a bit of proactive work, whereas I know a lot of our industries can be very reactive, answering those tickets. Make it a part of your daily structure, because what will eventually happen, it's happened to me. You know what? I checked backups yesterday. I'm so busy today. I'll skip it. Another busy day. I think the other guy's checking it. Next thing you know, you're 3 days behind checking your backups. You got a backup failed 2.5 days ago, and you could be in a bit of trouble. So we're going to be heading to our next one. I just want to also remind people to put in those questions. I see we got some good ones there. We're going to keep an eye on it and answer them all at the end. But anything related to anything I'm talking about, or even if it triggers something else that may not be directly related to this topic, but back related, throw it in the questions and we'll put some time aside to answer.
Perfect. All right. So moving on to scenario 2, we have a backup as a ransomware recovery solution, right? So Dan, I hand this back over to you as well, but can you kind of give us a little walkthrough of, a scenario here, some of the best practices, and why, for example, why a cloud backup solution is, a better option than relying on cloud sync services, such as maybe OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox?
Yep, 100%. And part of a backup strategy here can be, defense in layers here, right? Look, we know you have your antivirus. We know you have other security tools available. I think a lot of sentiment has changed in years of it's not a matter of if, but when, and making sure that you're protected from a variety of angles is going to be really important. So I do want to touch on the very first point that, it's really important to not rely on cloud sync services to be a backup. Just like we all know that RAID isn't backup today, right? In situations like that, it's not a foregone conclusion that, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, that these sync tools, right? They sync what is on your machine to the cloud is a viable backup strategy. First of all, your items are not being backed up. They're just being synced. So I know that there are products out there that back those devices up, but it's important not to rely on them as your backup tool. Now, I want to look at a scenario of, how would you or how could you protect workstations from a ransomware attack? Well, we know about protection of antivirus, but how could you recover from these situations as well? It's why internally I try and make sure that we don't bill our backup tool as a protection, but as a way to recover if the unthinkable happens. Now, for workstations, first and foremost, I want to recommend that you're doing cloud only. Unless you absolutely know that these machines will always be in an office. I think more and more today we're in a much more mobile workforce. More people are using laptops. If you're trying to use a local backup or a local and cloud backup on a laptop, you risk that backup failing because they weren't in the office. So for most people, and let me caveat this of you guys are all going to know situations that work best for you and don't. If you have some questions specifically to your scenario of why you might think cloud only might not be the best option, let's talk about it, right? But for the vast majority, I think cloud only is a really smart option to go for protecting users using laptops on the go. And for that, I want to recommend using a file folder solution more than an image backup. I think image is still a great option. We're going to talk about it in one of our last scenarios for your C-level and your VIPs. But for your standard users, typically you're not going to use your backup product as your imaging and deployment platform. And that's kind of what you need should 20, 30, 40, 50 machines become ransomware or compromised. You may already have some machines that you're going to fire up. You may be using another mechanism of deploying. If you want to make all of your workstations dependent on, let's be honest, a single internet pipe to image all of your workstations that have been compromised, that could be a dangerous situation where you become bandwidth and ISP limited, trying to download the operating systems and images for standard user workstations. So this is the thought process that I want to go through, and some of the things I want to get people to think about is, okay, what would you do if 50 workstations in your office were compromised, were ransomware, and you had to start over? And what I would be doing is making sure that I have the key files and folders backed up through a tool like Ninja Backup. And then I have the capability of restoring just the files that I need rather than, let's face it, a 30 gig, C drive 50 times. And so that's where I want to get people thinking about, where should I be using image? Where should I be using file folder? And when should I be using local backup for my needs? So, and then again, like I said, I really do want to hammer home that these cloud sync services really need to be looked at carefully and at part of your strategy. It's great for collaboration, but personally, I don't consider it a backup source. Right. So I'm just going to make sure I hit all my points. I think I did. And yeah, keep those questions coming. I love some of the questions that I'm already seeing in there, and we're going to be getting there.
Perfect. All right. So, Dan, we'll move on to our third scenario here. And, like we just mentioned, we just focused in on cloud backup and workstations. So why don't we switch directions here a little bit and talk more about kind of on-premise server backups, right? And fundamentally they're different. Both options between it being cloud versus on-prem, workstation versus server. So can you kind of walk us through a little bit and help us understand the most effective ways to back up servers? Kind of walk us through the scenario and why, some of the best practices may be a little different for these.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And this is where making sure you've thought about the strategy, you've thought about the scenarios are really important. With an on-premise server backup, it is critical, vital. For me, it's required that you got to be using a hybrid backup, right? Where you're using a local storage and a cloud storage location. You're protecting from a couple of things here, right? Locally, you're keeping it present so that if you need to recover a single file out of that, you can. But if you need to recover the entire server, you can do it over the LAN instead of over, the internet. And of course, it's going to take you longer to download it over the internet. And we do see people get themselves into situations. This is what this entire webinar is about, helping you not shoot yourself in the foot. Okay. We do see people get themselves into situations where they say, can you help? I have a terabyte server that I put cloud only and it's taking a long time. And yes, we're going to do everything we can to try and make sure that you've chosen the best restore method for the fastest recovery. But, we're in a very limited situation of what us as a backup vendor can do to help the situation when we don't have a local backup, right? So that cloud backup is there for long-term recovery or unthinkable disaster where the building's gone. And you need to recover in different fashions. So I can't stress enough how important it is to have both a local and a cloud version of your backups. We all know the 3-2-1 backup strategy. And I think it's really important to remind people that, with everything being cloud only, cloud available, you still need to make sure that you're protecting yourselves and your clients and your other department's best interests by making sure you have a copy available. One of the things, I don't have a slide or anything for this, but I would really encourage everyone to look up RPO and RTO. So there's recovery point objective and recovery time objective. These are things that backup administrators should be reviewing for every client that they support, for every department they support. Recovery point objective says, how much data could I lose? How much data could I lose? How far back do I have to go in my backups before, so that my business can survive? And recovery time objective, simply put, says, how long would it take me? What's the acceptable amount of time it should take for me to get back up and running? Some people's recovery point objective says, look, I can lose a week's worth of data and still survive. Some people say, if I lost an hour's worth of data, my business would sorely be in trouble. And then on the flip side, how much downtime can a company afford? And starting to answer those questions is going to make you a better backup administrator. It's going to help you be a better IT professional to the companies you support, but it's going to guide you and make sure that you're answering these questions and recognizing, oh, absolutely, I need local backups to make sure that I am protected. So, look, if you're going to go cloud only, you better have a really good case of maybe this is a secondary server, maybe it's really small and it's not going to matter. Maybe you're only talking about a small domain controller, but still, I would avoid using cloud-only backups as much as possible when you're talking about server workloads. And the last point on here, I've sort of glossed over it. I'm recommending image backups instead of file and folder. I think you'll have a better chance at recovering in place. So, with Ninja Backup today, we offer the capability of, bare metal restore onto a physical server back in place or to a new device, or our image recovery tool allows you to load it up as an ISO onto a virtual machine and, sort of bare metal recovery in a virtual machine environment. So back to basics here. Hybrid backup, so local and cloud and image are going to be really key here, making sure that you've got the protection you need for physical or for on-premise server backups.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. All right. Do you want to run through a quick walkover of scenario 4 so we can show some action?
I think we can.
Q&As?
Yeah, and then I got some great questions in here. Yeah, let's just quick hit the next slide, and really, this is I want to just outline maybe a different gotcha to our scenario 2, which is we talked about workstation backups, and then I'm recommending file folder, cloud only. I want to point out for your VIP, your C-level backups that I think you should consider going image with them, and I consider that because whereas you wouldn't be wanting to use image backup as a restore mechanism and tool for multi workstations, I think it's a safe thing to do for a single workstation that has a high value associated with it. And that will allow you to put that machine back in order exactly how that C-level had it, as opposed to, imaging it fresh, downloading data. Of course, all the settings are changed and different, right? Getting you that full snapshot of the image will be really great. So I think that kind of covers it really quickly. It's just another thing I want people to think about. It may not always be one size fits all, but helping get those things thought about will be really important.
Awesome. Great. So if you want, Dan, we'll kind of show off a little bit of some of these other scenarios within the platform. So thank you, Dan, for running it through. As a reminder, here are the scenarios that we just discussed. So Dan already walked us through scenario 1, which was the monitoring, restoration, testing, alert configuration within the Ninja One platform. And he's going to walk us through kind of the rest now a little bit. So we want to get to your questions. So Dan, feel free to breeze through, kind of the last scenario 2, if we want to hit on really just 2 and 3. But as a reminder, we have scenario 2, which was ransomware recovery. Scenario 3 was on-premise server backups. And Dan, I'll hand it over to you. You want to run us through a little bit before we get to the questions?
Yep, cool. All right. So what we're going to be looking at here is, in the Ninja One backup product here, right? We're policy based. So I'm just going to come into an existing policy so that I'm not making my salespeople's life a nightmare. And we're going to look at some backups that we have set. So let's look at each scenario here, right? So for our scenario 2, ransomware recovery for workstations. Again, file folder is what I am recommending here. And I want to recommend that we're using cloud only as that option. I don't think we should be using local only at all for this situation. And I think hybrid could fit depending on your business needs here, right? And, again, think about that RPO. Do you want to schedule this to run every hour instead of, once a day? We have that capability here, making sure that, you're selecting this run plan immediately if missed. This is a great option to make sure that you are, laptops go offline, they get put in the bag, they go travel. We can make sure that we are running that backup next. And, this is where we are allowing you to kind of choose your common folders, like the documents. You've got a really quick, easy way of handling these, common areas very quickly. But we still allow you to go ahead and say, hey, please back up that C, what am I trying to type live? C temp folder here as well. So that's what I'm definitely recommending for the file folder workstation backup. Always like to point out that we have kind of a safety feature here that, we can kind of clean up the size of the backup by saying, hey, go ahead and remove files that have been deleted for, older than 10 days, but always keep one revision, just in case, if you're looking for that historical concept. So that's what I'd be doing for that. For our our on-prem server backup here, right? We're going to look at the image plan and make sure that we are using a hybrid. So as a reminder with Ninja Backup, so we do policy-based here, but you'll go set your local storage at your organization level at the network storage tab. So you could go ahead and make sure you've got, a Synology NAS device or something similar to make sure that your local backups are ready. And really, much of the same thing applies here, but it's about making sure you've got the plan set up right. And then I want to remind everyone, go test what it means to do a image restore. I always like to point out here that our support team, we've got a dedicated crew at Ninja that handles just our backup product. And basically we have some great people there and some training. If you start saying image restore help, the lights and sirens fly. First of all, if you ever need to test that, just tell them you're testing. I'm testing my image restore capabilities. We'll still be there to help you, but you won't wake me up in the middle of the night, okay? But we're there to really walk you through all of these scenarios that you have. And even if you feel like you're an experienced pro, feel free to give us a call and run it by us first before you set off on, am I going to bare metal recovery, or am I just going to download the volumes and recreate my virtual machine? We have a lot of experience doing this, and we're happy to kind of help out with that. And then look, it's the same thing here for the critical C-level workstation, right? Cloud only is what I would do, and an image here. So I think that sort of cuts away from the demo. I want to get to these questions. I think we've got a lot of them. If I'm not able to answer your question, we do have an email address where we can get you plugged in directly to me at the end here. But let me see about just going through some of the questions here.
Yeah. And real quick, Dan, before we do that, I'm just going to call Christine in quick for our giveaway. If you want to hop in, Christine, and announce the winner as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, perfect. And while we wait for Christine as well, just like Dan mentioned also, you can see the email address that's on the bottom there, backupfeedback@ninjarmm.com. That's going to give us directly to Dan and myself. So feel free, like Dan mentioned, if we don't get to all the questions today, feel free to send an email there. We'll get back to you as quick as we can. We love talking to you guys, figuring out, answering your questions. So feel free to do that. And after Christine announces the giveaway winner, we'll start hopping into the Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for your patience. Was trying to jump in. I am here for the fun stuff. What you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. I'm going to keep it super short and sweet. I know we want to get to the questions. So if we can all pop in the chat and say a huge congratulations to our Apple Watch winner, who is, drumroll please, Malcolm Elliott. Congratulations, Malcolm. Be on the lookout for an email from us, and we'll get that out to you. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Christine.
All right, cool. I'm seeing some feature requests in here. Love it. I'm going to verbalize them as I see them. I want to encourage everyone that has a feature request or an enhancement request, just send me an email at the thing on screen here. We build products based on your feedback and your interest. If you send that to me, I literally can just like put it into my system much easier than me having to type in everyone's request and tag eventually. So please send it in. Plus other people are on that, and then maybe they'll get additional buy-in as well. All right. Linux servers, where are we at on a Linux backup? It's something that we are looking at. Send me those in. I want to see those go in. So send me that information. Let me see here. Hey, Mac, do you handle Mac backup? The answer is yes. We do file folder backup for Mac. It's technically in an open beta, which is getting dropped in our next release to full general release. And yeah, it's working quite well. So Nick, do we need to have then I think we do need to have them reach out to their AM to get that enabled today.
I
For
believe
an open
today,
beta?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. Yep.
Reach out to your AM, your account manager. We'd love to get that turned on for you. Let's see here. Another Mac question. Am I aware there is a Gooch standing right behind? I am. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Is this Cloudberry or a native Ninja backup technology? The items that we've shown today is a backup that Ninja has built from the ground up. We have developers that have experience in backup products in the past, and we've built it all in-house. Let's see here. I'm gonna scan through, see if I have more directly from any questions from, yeah. How do you keep laptops backed up? They're constantly turning off or have the lid shut. One of the best strategies you can use there is doing the, run backup if missed. I do know that our backup product is pretty resilient if you shut it down or like lose connection during a backup. When it comes back on, we've seen this in testing that it should continue where it left off. This is also why I would probably recommend doing file folder for laptops instead of an image, right? With an image, we're taking a VSS snapshot of the whole volume, and we need to parse that before you can get a successful backup. And if that's interrupted, you're going to have a problem. So I'm going to recommend file folder here, and I think that should help out. Can I demo a hybrid mode? Ari, email me directly here. I'd love to get you a little bit more intel on that. But the basic part of what a hybrid backup will do is we first are going to back up to a local target, and then we're going to go ahead and sync that point to the cloud. So they don't work independently. They require each other to get taken care of. Yeah, so the question here about I should probably say the questions instead of just saying them in my head here, right? Does Ninja provide a local backup solution if the customer does not have one and would like one, meaning the hardware? We don't provide any hardware. And so we don't need an appliance to function. It's why we're able to do direct cloud only. But, we can back up to an SMB shared storage. Today, we're recommending, like some sort of NAS device where you could put an SMB share on the network, protect it with some user permissions. So we don't offer any hardware directly. And let's see here. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint? I know that we're recording this.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we could do that. And also, we're going to make sure that all of our participants get our best practice guide. We've put out a bit of a 4-pager, nicely designed, quick thing that you can do, and you can show your bosses if you need to about why we got to take care of doing the best practices for a backup product. So let me see here. Okay, so a couple questions here on SQL and database backups. For Microsoft SQL, we are capable of backing those up as an image backup. We are VSS aware. And because when a program like Microsoft SQL installs its own VSS writer, we're able to tap into that and back it up while it is open, while it is active. A couple of best practices that I like to really recommend. I like to make sure that if I need more frequent backups than maybe what I'm going to use in a backup product, I can take internal SQL backups, right, as your maintenance plan. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you are putting those on another volume that isn't being backed up. If you ask Ninja to back up your SQL backup directory, those cannot be incremented, right? And so we're going to just keep a rolling 30 days worth of SQL backup files, and that's going to bloat your storage. But we are capable of backing up a machine running Microsoft SQL or anything else that has a VSS writer that is installed. I see a question about QuickBooks here, and QuickBooks, a lot more challenging. And as far as I understand it, this is kind of a problem with QuickBooks in general. There's no VSS writer for that. And so for that, the file is locked and we're unable to back it up live during it. I would still recommend image backup, right? You're going to get more of what I call like a crash consistent backup, right? Because the file couldn't be quieted down, we're going to back it up, but consider it maybe as if you like turn the power button off and on. Now, I would still highly recommend, like utilizing any type of internal product backup tool. So you could do the same thing with SQL here. If you want to take backups at higher frequency, if there's a utility that you can hook into with QuickBooks, I would be putting that on a separate drive. Then you could use Ninja File Folder to back up the QuickBooks backups. That's an alternative and an area I would approach. In one of our upcoming updates, we're going to be adding pre and postscript options. My research has said that there isn't any type of command line options available for QuickBooks, but if you wanted to kill the process and then start the process again, taking a backup in the middle, you could do that in a pre and postscript opportunity. That's how I would be handling using the QuickBooks. So hope that answered your question. I'm going to try and I got a lot of questions. This is great, guys.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Good question. Any hook into Microsoft 365 backups? Not today. It's something that I think is really important. Seriously, if you think it's important too, please send me that email. I need as much feedback as I can on this. I personally think that 365 backups and SaaS backups are going to be the future. So we're really looking into that. Let's see here. I got pricing questions. Please reach out to your account manager. I don't want to just be shuffling you off, but like I just can't answer that. I'm not the best person to do that. We'd be happy to get you a demo. We have a dedicated team ready to help you get set up on this. Have we seen customers moving away from traditional backups, such as Veeam, and moving exclusively to Ninja? Yeah, honestly, yes. And there's different reasons and different things that make it a little bit more shiny to others. I think one of the key facts is that we're actually built into the RMM. I think we use the term single pane of glass, not as a buzzword, but as something that we're actually doing. I think we're seeing a lot of consolidation where people want to use fewer tools. And I think people like that they just can click a button and turn backup on rather than having to go and deploy anything else specifically. So I noticed Dropbox folder is excluded by default. If we don't depend on Dropbox for backup, we need to turn off that exclusion, right? So, I can't speak directly to Dropbox, but what I will say is if you're going to use a cloud sync tool, right, you have to make sure that the files are not just stub files on the machine. I think different sync products have different settings of like, no, but actually keep the files locally and in my sync tool. Otherwise, you're going to see the folder structure, but some don't actually bring it locally until you open it. So if you want to back up those files, you need to make sure that they're legitimately being stored locally on the machine and not just stub files. Strategy for backing up Windows servers with VMs. Great question here. So the way I like to approach this is, as long as you can deploy the Ninja agent, an RMM agent on it, you can back it up. And that's sort of another reason why I think people are being more and more interested with us. It's a part of our RMM. So we're going to back up those virtual machines individually and then be able to restore the virtual machines individually. So as long as you can put the Ninja RMM agent on it, you're good to go. Let's see here. Nick, if I missed any good ones here, we still got a lot, but I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, let me go back and check. Do have a lot of great questions here.
Well, the local, how would an on-premise NAS sync up with cloud data, especially since the on-prem NAS is smaller than the cloud space? Will the local NAS apply round robin, delete oldest data first when full? Okay, so our backup product is directly agent based. So agent's got to be on. Agent can't trim itself or do anything if it's not connected. So we're going to make sure we're backing up to the locally, and then the agent is going to call that to be synced to the cloud. If you're running out of space, I mean, right, that's a problem, right? So we typically want to be using as much space locally and in the cloud. Our retention policies are linked. By the way, anyone using a NAS, please go make sure that you have your recycle bin turned off for your share. Just ran into a customer that had been using our backup product for quite a while, and all the points that were getting dropped from retention were still being kept. Guy had 12 terabytes sitting in the recycle bin and was wondering why he was running out of space. It happens. So that's a gotcha that I always like to make sure people pay attention to. Ideally, we got to make sure we have enough local space to keep the amount of backups that you're looking to keep. That's typically when I'm deploying a backup solution, I'm first saying, how much data do I need to keep? I need 6 months. Okay. What do I expect that data, size to look like? Doing some testing and recognizing how much storage you're going to need to meet your backup objectives that the company has. Can I restore a single file if I am doing image backups? Yes, as long as you've got the data stored in a hybrid plan or a cloud-only plan, we are capable of mounting the image and extracting a file for you to handle. Let's see here. If an agent on a VM does an image backup, how does restore work? So, right, you can restore with individual files if you're needing. We have an image restore tool, which you can load as an ISO and literally kind of, plug the USB drive into that virtual machine for a new one. And we can bare metal recovery. We can restore it directly in place. Or you can choose to download the VHDX files of the virtual machine and hook them up to the virtual machine yourself. Let me see if I've missed anything at the top. I've missed questions, guys. I'm so sorry. I want to invite everyone to join our
Absolutely,
Discord. We have a backup section in Discord. I get alerted. I shouldn't say that. I get alerted to every message, but I may be toning it down a bit. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to talk to you guys. Quite frankly, I'm really excited to be doing these webinars. We want to do different topics in the future. I'm looking for people to gain better feedback and insight as to how you guys are using our product. My role as the product manager is I help figure out what we're going to build next. Simply put, are we going to do X or Y as a new feature? And yes, I have backup experience, but if I build something and you didn't like it, if it doesn't work, I've failed at my job. So the way I'm trying to be successful is by hearing your guys' feedback. If you are having any issues with our product, if you have any ideas, advice, pain points, reach out in our channels, reach out in our email. I may ask you to open a ticket. I may direct you to our sales team so that you can get pricing and a demo. But one of the main reasons I wanted to join Ninja was because I think this company really does care about our community and communication with our customers. So, I think we commit, and I want to personally commit that we're going to get you to the right person. And I definitely want to hear your feedback. So I know I've missed a lot in the questions. I really want to thank everyone. It's awesome how much we've had. I think we've done this in the past. I have not been able to read chat, but I've seen some good stuff in there. So hopefully if we can take a snapshot of this, please, Nick or Christine, in case I've missed anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
100%.
think we're
And
good
just
here,
to
guys.
tap on that, perfect. And just to tap on that, Dan, the Discord link is within the chat. Jonathan placed it in there as well. Again, feel free to reach out. Like Dan said, I know we missed some questions, but we want to get, you all the answers you need. I second everything Dan said. It's the reason I joined Ninja. I want to hear from you guys as well, being the product marketing manager on my end also. Feel free to send emails to that email address that's on the bottom there. I'll throw it in the chat as well. But this goes directly to Dan and myself, and we are always looking to hear from you guys. We want to know kind of how you feel about backup, and where we can go from there. So again, thank you so much for joining today. Really looking forward to bring you guys some more content going forward, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you all.